You are not supposed to find this right now. And that is not a comfortable thing to hear, but sit with it for a moment. Something brought you here, something you cannot quite name, something that does not operate on the level of logic or planning or even desire. You did not search for this. You did not plan for this. And yet here you are, reading these words at this exact moment in your life, in this exact emotional state, carrying the exact weight you are carrying right now. If you think that is a coincidence, you have not yet understood the first thing about how reality actually works. Most people believe they choose what they consume. They believe they scroll and click and select based on preference, based on free will operating in a vacuum. But what if the truth is far stranger than that? What if certain information has a frequency, and that frequency can only be received when your own frequency matches it? What if this video did not appear in your feed because of an algorithm, but because of a resonance? Because something inside you shifted just enough, cracked open just enough, that this signal could finally get through. You are not ready for this. Some part of you felt that the moment you arrived, maybe defiance, maybe curiosity, maybe a strange quiet knowing that said, yes, that is probably true and I am going to watch it anyway. That reaction, whatever it was, is the very thing that drew you here. Because readiness is not what you think it is. Readiness is not preparation. Readiness is not confidence. Readiness, in the way the universe understands it, is simply the moment when resistance drops just enough for the signal to land. And your resistance just dropped, right now, in this moment. This is not mystical hand-waving. This is not wishful thinking dressed in spiritual language. In quantum physics, there is a principle called the observer effect. It tells us something so radical that most of the scientific community has not fully reckoned with its implications. The observer effect demonstrates that the act of observation changes the thing being observed. At the subatomic level, particles do not exist in a definite state until they are measured, until they are witnessed, until consciousness interacts with them. Before observation, a particle exists in superposition, a state of pure potential where all possibilities are simultaneously real. Only when awareness meets that potential does one possibility collapse into actuality. Now apply that to this moment. Before you clicked on this video, its message existed in a state of potential. It was here, yes, technically accessible to billions, but it was not alive. It was not active. It had no power. The moment your consciousness met these words, the moment your awareness collapsed the wave function of this information, it became real. It became yours, not abstractly, in the most literal, physical, quantum mechanical way that science can describe. You are not passively receiving information right now. You are actively creating an experience. Your consciousness is selecting from an infinite field of potential, meaning the exact interpretation, the exact emotional resonance, the exact depth of understanding that matches your current state. Two people can hear the same sentence and receive entirely different transmissions. The words are identical. The frequency of reception is not, and your frequency right now is tuned to something specific. Something you may not yet be able to articulate, but it is real, it is precise. What does it mean to not be ready? Really think about that. The common assumption is that unreadiness is a problem, that you should wait, prepare, come back later when you have done the work, process the trauma, achieve the clarity. That is the linear mind talking. That is the part of you that believes growth is a staircase. One step after another, sequential, predictable, earned. But consciousness does not work like a staircase. It works like a spiral. On a spiral, you do not encounter new information by climbing to it. You encounter it by coming back around to the same point at a deeper level. You have been here before. Not here in this video, but here in this frequency, this question, this threshold. You have stood at this edge before and turned away, not because you were weak, but because the spiral had not yet brought you deep enough for this particular layer of truth to be useful. And now it has. The spiral has turned. And here you are again at what feels like a new place, but is actually a familiar place seen with new eyes. This is how evolution works. Not in straight lines, but in circles that deepen. Not in breakthroughs, but in homecomings. So when I say you are not ready for this, I do not mean you are not capable. I mean the part of you that thinks it needs to be ready, the part that wants to prepare and control and understand before it experiences. That part is about to be bypassed. What is moving through this conversation is not for your thinking mind. It is for the deeper architecture. The part of you that existed before your name, before your story, before your personality crystallized around a set of beliefs about who you are and what is possible. There is a you beneath the you that you know, and that deeper you has been waiting for this, not waiting the way you wait for a bus, passive and bored, waiting the way a seed waits in dark soil, actively gathering, silently preparing, drawing nutrients from experiences you thought were meaningless, from pain you thought was pointless, from confusion you thought was failure. All of it was preparation. All of it was the spiral turning, and now the seed is ready to crack open, and the cracking does not feel like readiness. It feels like falling apart. This is the great misunderstanding of transformation. Everyone wants the butterfly. Nobody wants the dissolution inside the cocoon. Everyone wants the awakening. Nobody wants the dark night that precedes it. So when the moment of real change arrives, when the frequency of truth finally matches the frequency of your openness, it does not feel like a gift. It feels like a crisis. It feels like everything you believed is being pulled out from under you. It feels like you are not ready, and you are not. Not the you that you have been. That version of you was never going to be ready for this, because this requires a version of you that does not exist yet. This is the paradox at the heart of all genuine transformation. You cannot prepare for it because the preparation would require being the person you will become after it. You cannot study your way to an awakening. You cannot think your way to a new frequency. You can only allow the old frequency to dissolve. So let me ask you something. Answer honestly, not to me, but to yourself. What have you been holding on to that you know is no longer true? What belief about yourself, about reality, about what is possible, have you been gripping with white knuckles even though some quiet part of you has been whispering that it is time to let go? Maybe it is the belief that you are not enough. Maybe it is the belief that the world is fundamentally hostile. Maybe it is the belief that you have to earn love, earn safety, earn the right to exist fully. Whatever it is, that is the thing this video found you to address, not to fix, not to solve, but to illuminate. Because the moment you see a belief clearly, the moment consciousness shines its light on a pattern that has been running in the dark, the pattern begins to lose its power. Not because you fought it, because awareness itself is transformative. Observation changes the observed. In physics, there is a concept called coherence. Coherence describes a state in which waves are synchronized, moving together, their peaks and valleys aligned. A laser is coherent light, all the photons moving in phase, and that coherence is what gives a laser its extraordinary power. Regular light scatters. Coherent light cuts through steel. Your consciousness works the same way. Most of the time, your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and intentions are incoherent. They scatter in different directions. You want abundance but believe in scarcity. You desire connection but radiate fear. You intend to change but identify with the old pattern. These contradictions create interference that cancels out your creative power. You are broadcasting a signal, but it is static. And the universe, which is always listening, always responding to the frequency you emit, cannot organize around noise. It can only organize around coherence. This is why most manifestation does not work, not because the principle is wrong, but because the practitioner is incoherent. They are trying to use their mind to override their body, trying to think new thoughts while feeling old feelings, visualizing a future while the nervous system is locked in the past. And the universe does not respond to what you think. It responds to what you are, the total signal, the full spectrum broadcast of your being. So how do you become coherent? The answer is not what the self-help industry has been selling you. The answer is not more effort, not better affirmations or stricter morning routines. The answer is surrender. Coherence does not come from adding something. It comes from removing the interference, from letting go of contradictory beliefs, competing identities, layers of conditioning that have been creating static in your signal for years. And letting go is not a technique. it is not something you do. It is something you allow. It is what happens naturally when you stop managing, stop controlling, and simply allow yourself to be what you already are beneath all the noise. Feel what happens when you consider the possibility that you do not need to become anything, that the frequency you are seeking is not something you need to achieve but something you need to uncover, that it is already here, already broadcasting, already perfect, just buried under layers of who you were told you needed to be. This is what every genuine spiritual tradition has pointed to: the Buddhist concept of original nature, the Christian idea of the kingdom of heaven within, the Hindu teaching of Atman, the Sufi understanding of the divine spark at the center of every heart, all pointing to the same truth. Your deepest identity is not a product of your history. It is not something that needs to be healed or fixed or improved. It is the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. The screen on which the movie of your life is projected, and the screen is never damaged by the movie. The screen is always whole, always clear, always ready. You are that screen. You have always been that screen. And the reason this video found you before you were ready is because the screen does not need to be ready. Only the character in the movie needs to be ready. And you are not the character. You have been playing the character, so absorbed in the role that you forgot you were acting, forgot there was a screen, forgot there was an awareness behind your eyes infinitely larger than the story being told. And now you are remembering, not learning, remembering. Learning adds something new. Remembering reveals something that was always there. Let me tell you something about how this process works in the body, because this is not just a philosophical conversation. This is a physiological event. When a deep belief begins to dissolve, when an old identity structure starts to lose its coherence, the body responds. Because beliefs are not just thoughts. They are neurological patterns, hormonal signatures, muscular tensions. Every belief you hold is written in the tissue of your body, encoded in the firing patterns of your neurons, maintained by the chemical cocktail your brain produces every single day. You are not just thinking your beliefs. You are wearing them, breathing them. They are you, at least the biological you. So when a belief begins to shift, the body does not smoothly transition. It goes through withdrawal, literal biochemical withdrawal, because the cells that were addicted to the old emotional signature are suddenly not getting their fix, and they protest. They send signals to the brain that say something is wrong. They create anxiety, restlessness, irritability, fatigue, physical pain. They create the overwhelming urge to go back to the old pattern, to think the old thoughts, to feel the old feelings, to return to the familiar frequency, even if that frequency was miserable. This is why change is so hard, not because you lack willpower, not because you are not committed, but because your body is a biological echo of your past and it does not want to become the future. And the moment you start to shift, really shift at the level of identity, the body sounds every alarm it has. Most people interpret those alarms as a sign they are doing something wrong. They think the anxiety means they are on the wrong path. They think the discomfort means they are not ready, and so they retreat. They go back to the familiar, and the spiral continues. But the discomfort is not a warning, it is a confirmation. The discomfort is the cocoon dissolving. The discomfort is the seed shell cracking. The discomfort is the old frequency losing its grip and the new frequency trying to establish itself. If you can stay with it, breathe through it, observe it without reacting, without making it mean something about your worth or your path or your readiness, then something extraordinary happens. The body recalibrates. The nervous system rewires. The cells begin to build new receptors for a new emotional signature. And you become, not through effort, but through allowing, a different being broadcasting a different frequency into a responsive universe. This is not metaphor. This is neuroscience. This is epigenetics. This is the measurable, observable, replicable process by which consciousness reshapes biology. Your thoughts change your brain. Your emotions change your genes. Your state of being changes your body. And your body, this antenna of flesh and bone, changes the signal you broadcast into the quantum field. And the field responds. It always responds. It has no choice but to respond because that is what fields do. They organize around coherent signals. So right now you are at a threshold. The old signal is weakening. The beliefs that used to feel solid are starting to feel hollow. The identity that used to feel like you is starting to feel like a costume. The life that used to feel normal is starting to feel like a waiting room. And something new is trying to emerge, but it does not have a shape yet. It does not have a name. It does not have a plan. It is just a frequency, a pull, a knowing without content, a direction without a map. And your mind hates that. Your mind wants the map. Your mind wants the 5-step plan. Your mind wants to know what the new identity looks like before it agrees to release the old one. But that is not how this works. That has never been how this works. The caterpillar does not get a preview of the butterfly. The seed does not get a blueprint of the tree. The old self does not get to approve the new self before the transformation begins. You have to let go before you can see what you are letting go into. You have to fall before you can discover you have wings. This is faith, not faith in a deity or a doctrine. Faith in the intelligence of the process itself. Faith in the same intelligence that turns an acorn into an oak, that turns a single cell into a human body, that turns cosmic dust into galaxies. That intelligence is not outside you. It is the very fabric of your being. It is the consciousness reading these words right now. It watched your birth. It will watch your death. And it is watching this moment with the same perfect clarity it has always had. You do not need to be ready. You need to be willing. There is an enormous difference. Readiness is a concept of the mind. Willingness is a posture of the soul. Readiness says, I will move when I am certain. Willingness says, I will move even though I am not. Readiness requires evidence. Willingness requires trust, and trust is not blind. Trust is the recognition that the intelligence that orchestrated every atom in your body, every synapse in your brain, every beat of your heart for every second of your life without you having to think about it even once, that intelligence probably knows what it is doing. You have been trusting it your whole life without knowing it. Every breath you take is an act of trust. Every night you fall asleep, surrendering consciousness entirely is an act of trust so profound that if you truly thought about it, it would bring you to your knees. You already know how to trust. You already know how to surrender. You just have not applied it to your waking life, to your identity, to your beliefs about what is possible, but you can, right now, in this breath. Welcome to Quantum Soul Meditations ***. What we have touched on here, the observer effect, the spiral of consciousness, the coherence that transforms your broadcast signal, this only scratches the surface. This channel exists to take you deeper, to guide you not into more information, but into more of yourself. Let me guide you into something now. Not a technique, not a practice, an experience. Wherever you are, allow your body to settle. Allow whatever posture you are in to soften by 1 degree. 1 degree less tension, 1 degree less holding, 1 degree less effort. Bring your attention to your breathing, not to change it, just to notice it. Feel the air entering, feel the air leaving. Feel the pause between the exhale and the next inhale. Stay there for a moment. That gap between breaths is the space between thoughts. The silence between notes that makes music possible. The stillness at the center of the spiral. That is you. Not the breath, not the thought, the awareness in which all of it appears. From that place, from that still point, ask yourself this question. Not with your mind, but with your whole being. What am I without my story? Do not answer it. Do not try to figure it out. Just let the question exist in you like a bell that has been rung, vibrating, resonating, expanding outward in all directions. What am I without my name? Without my history? Without my beliefs about what I can and cannot do, what I deserve and do not deserve, what is possible and what is not? Feel what happens when you ask that question sincerely. Feel the slight vertigo. Feel the ground shifting. Feel the mind scrambling for an answer and finding nothing to hold on to. That nothing is not empty. That nothing is full. That nothing is the quantum field itself. Pure potential. Infinite possibility. The uncollapsed wave function of your being, waiting for a new observation, a new intention, a new coherent signal to organize around. You are standing in the field of all possibilities right now. Not metaphorically, Literally, every quantum physicist will tell you that the ground state of reality is a field of infinite potential. They call it the zero-point field. They call it the quantum vacuum. And it is not empty. It is the fullest thing in existence. It contains more energy per cubic centimeter than all the matter in the observable universe. It is the source from which all particles arise and to which all particles return. It is the canvas on which reality is painted, and you are not separate from it. You are an expression of it, a localized excitation of the field itself, temporarily organized into the pattern you call your body, your mind, your life. And that pattern can change, not slowly, not incrementally, not through years of effort. It can change in an instant because the field does not operate in time. The field is timeless. The collapse of the wave function is instantaneous. One moment infinite possibilities, the next moment one actuality. And the only thing that determines which possibility becomes actual is the observation, the consciousness, the coherent signal. This is why masters and sages throughout history have demonstrated what appear to be miracles: spontaneous healing, radical transformation, instant awakening. These are not violations of natural law. They are expressions of natural law operating at a level most people never access. They are what happens when consciousness becomes so coherent, so aligned, so free of interference that the signal it broadcasts into the field is unmistakable, and the field responds with equal clarity, equal precision, equal power. You have that capacity, not someday, now. The only thing standing between you and that level of coherence is the static, the noise, the old beliefs, the old identity, the old frequency. And those are dissolving right now with every word that lands not in your mind but in your body, with every moment of recognition that makes you feel like you are remembering something you have always known, because you have always known this. You came into this world knowing it. Every infant radiates the kind of coherent presence that adults spend decades trying to recover. You were born in a state of pure being, pure presence, pure signal. And then the world taught you to be something else. It taught you to be afraid, to be small, to seek approval and avoid rejection and fit into a shape that was never yours. And layer by layer, belief by belief, the static accumulated. The signal got buried. The coherence was lost. But it was never destroyed. It cannot be destroyed. The screen cannot be damaged by the movie. The ocean cannot be diminished by the waves. The field cannot be reduced by its expressions. Your original nature, your true frequency, your deepest identity is as intact right now as it was the moment you were born. It is the awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. And it is smiling. Not because everything is perfect in the way your mind defines perfect, but because it sees the whole spiral. It sees where you have been and where you are going, and it knows they are the same place seen from different depths. It sees the pain you have carried, and it knows that pain was the weight that drove the seed deeper into the soil. It sees the confusion you have felt, and it knows that confusion was the dissolution of a reality that was too small for what you are becoming. It sees your belief that you are not ready, and it knows that belief is the last wall, the final layer of resistance, the thinnest membrane between who you have been and who you actually are. And it is dissolving. Can you feel it? Something softening, something releasing, something that has been clenched for so long you forgot it was clenched, a fist in your chest slowly opening, a knot in your belly slowly unwinding. You do not have to do anything about it. You do not have to process it or understand it or name it. Just let it happen. Just let the old frequency complete itself. Just let the wave finish its motion and return to stillness. This is grace, not a reward for good behavior. Grace is what happens when you stop blocking what was always trying to flow. Grace is the natural state of a coherent field. Grace is what you are made of, what you are swimming in, what you are. And you do not have to earn it. You just have to stop refusing it. The mind will never decide you are ready. The mind's job is to keep you safe, and safe means known, and known means the past. The mind will always choose the familiar suffering over the unfamiliar freedom. So you cannot wait for the mind to give you permission. You cannot wait for the fear to disappear. You move with the fear. You breathe with the objections. You step forward while the mind insists you are not ready, because the part of you that is moving is not the mind. It is the deeper intelligence, the field intelligence, the consciousness that has been patiently, lovingly, relentlessly guiding you back to itself through every twist of the spiral. That intelligence brought you to quantum soul, not the algorithm, not chance, not your conscious decision. The field itself organized the exact sequence of events that resulted in these words entering your awareness at this precise moment. Because the field is not random, the field is intelligent, the field is creative, and it wants to know itself through you. You are never going to be ready. Readiness is a mirage. It is a horizon that moves as you approach it. Every condition you set, I will be ready when I have healed this, I will be ready when I feel more confident. Every single one of those conditions is a delay tactic, a negotiation with infinity, and the universe is not waiting for your conditions to be met. The universe is waiting for you to abandon your conditions entirely, to show up as you are, broken and whole, confused and clear, afraid and willing, all of it. Every contradictory piece of you brought to the threshold, offered to the fire, surrendered to the spiral. That is what transformation actually looks like. Not the polished version, the real version. The ugly, terrifying, exhilarating, I have no idea what I am doing but something is moving through me version. That is the version that changes worlds. That is the version that rewrites timelines. That is the version that collapses wave functions and reorganizes fields and creates realities that the old self could never have imagined. You are a broadcasting tower. You have always been a broadcasting tower, and the signal you broadcast creates the reality you experience, not as a metaphor, as a mechanism. The electromagnetic field of your heart, which is measurable, which extends several feet beyond your body, which is 5,000 times stronger than the electromagnetic field of your brain. That field is your broadcast signal. And it is shaped by your emotional state, by your beliefs, by your identity, by the degree of coherence between what you think, what you feel, and what you know at the deepest level of your being. When those three are aligned, when thought and feeling and knowing are broadcasting the same frequency, you become a laser, coherent light. And coherent light does not scatter. It cuts through limitation. It cuts through every obstacle the old incoherent signal could never penetrate. And you are closer to that coherence than you think. The very fact that you are here, that these words are resonating, that something in you is responding not with skepticism but with recognition, that tells you something. The alignment is already happening. The old static is already clearing. The signal is already strengthening. You are not at the beginning of this process. You are at the tipping point. The moment just before the wave collapses, the moment just before the seed breaks through the soil, the moment just before the butterfly emerges from what looked like destruction, and all that is required of you is to stay, to not turn away, to not retreat into the familiar. The field does not exist in the future. The field exists in this moment. The wave function does not collapse tomorrow. It collapses now. The only point of power you have ever had is this breath, this heartbeat, this flicker of awareness reading these words right now. So stay here, stay in this frequency, not because you are forcing yourself, but because something in you recognizes that this is home, this frequency, this depth, this quality of attention. This is what you have been looking for in every relationship, every achievement, every experience. Not the thing itself, but the frequency of presence that the thing temporarily gave you access to. You were never chasing the goal. You were chasing the feeling of alignment that you thought the goal would produce. But the alignment does not come from the goal. The alignment comes from you. It comes from here, from this. And now you know, not because you were told, because you remembered. This is it, you are it, now is it. Consider returning to this channel each morning, letting these words reset your frequency before the noise of the day begins. Share this with someone standing at their own threshold right now. When you send this to another person, you are not just sharing a video. You are extending a coherent signal into the field, and that signal amplifies in both directions, deepening your own remembering while opening a doorway for theirs. Let this moment be enough. Let your imperfect, uncertain, beautifully unready self be enough, because it is. It always has been. The field does not require your perfection. It requires your presence. And you are here, fully, undeniably, irreversibly here. Something has shifted. You may not be able to name it yet, but it has happened. A frequency has changed. A signal has been received. A wave function has collapsed into a new possibility. And from this moment forward, the spiral continues. But you are on a different layer now. A deeper layer, a truer layer. So as you move back into your day, carry this with you. Not as a thought, not as a belief, as a frequency, a vibration in your cells, a hum in your bones, a quiet knowing that does not need to be defended or explained or proven, just lived, just breathed, just embodied. You were not ready for this, and that was exactly the point, because readiness was never the requirement, presence was, and you showed up against all odds, against all resistance, against every voice that said not yet, not you, not now. You showed up, and that is not a small thing, that is everything. That is the entire universe choosing to know itself more deeply through the specific, unrepeatable, irreplaceable lens of your consciousness. You are not ready. You will never be ready. And that is the most liberating truth you will ever hear, because it means you can stop waiting. You can stop preparing. You can stop rehearsing for a moment that is already here. Breathe and begin.